Hey, good afternoon, class. It's Professor Norwood again, and I just wanted to check in really quickly and talk about just giving you some strategies to, get your draft of your causal analysis essay together. I have looked at your outlines, and for the most part, there was good content in these in your outlines. So, for the ones that I looked at, I did instruct you to get started on your draft. So as you're putting your draft together, I think firstly it's important to mention that rough drafts are, just that. They're going to be a little rough. So if your ideas aren't quite coming together the way you want them to, that's fine, in a rough draft, but you got to submit it, in order to get that feedback. All right. So if you find yourself struggling, like I said, your ideas aren't coming together the way you want to, in a lot of ways, what you're feeling is pretty natural, to the writing process. So the first draft, rarely comes out, the way we want it to. Just keep pushing yourself through it. All right, keep pushing yourself through it, knowing that you can always go back and, revise. All right. So your outline was the reasons for that were twofold. One was to, help you with their brainstorm, get some points together. All right. But the other reason was to help you get you organized, for your draft. That's why there was a space on there for your thesis statement. And then, additional categories for either causes or effect, depending on what you were discussing. All right. So now that we've, completed the pre-writing aspect of this assignment, now it's time to begin the drafting process. And again, like I just said, take the pressure off of yourself, right? This is a rough draft. You will have an opportunity to revise, but the main thing is just getting your ideas out there. All right. And really, having a solid thesis statement in your rough draft, that's to your benefit as well, to your advantage as well. All right. But regardless of what you're writing about, um, every introduction, although they're going to be different, every introduction should have three components in common. Okay, there's my three. You couldn't see my fingers there. All right. The first thing, you need to start off with an attention grabber. How are you going to get your reader involved in the discussion? All right, whatever you're talking about, you can start with an interesting statistic. You can start with some startling fact, some shocking statement. You can begin with a short quote, an anecdote, which is a short but related story. But think of a way to get your reader's interest. All right, could be, like the example, could be just starting off with, a relatable statement. There was once a time when 9 to 5 meant just that for most American workers. So maybe at this point your reader's thinking like, you know what, the 9 to 5 day has kind of gone to the wayside, if you will. All right, beating the rush hour traffic in the morning to make it to the office and the late afternoon stampede out of the office sounds familiar to a great deal of employees. All right, so after you have your attention grabber, the second element you need in your introduction, provide some background, some context. What does your reader need to know to be involved in the discussion that you're about to have with them throughout your paper? All right, what kind of background material do they need to have? All right, another good way to approach your intro, maybe you start off general, and as the introduction builds up, you get more specific, as you go further, finally leading up to your thesis statement. Okay, so now we're up to two elements that you need in your in your introduction. Attention grabber, some kind of background or something that provides context, for what you're going to be talking about in your paper. However, as technology has evolved, so has the average work schedule. Specifically, as the 9 to 5 day transition to an always on call lifestyle, the lines between personal and professional lives has become blurred. Though technology like the smartphone has made work more convenient and efficient by providing us with pocket sized computers, many employees find themselves handling work related issues during off work hours. Okay, so this introduction is building up to a thesis statement. Okay, starts off with a general statement, and then transitions into technology. Then it transitions to a specific piece of technology, and then finally we transition into the effects of this specific piece of technology. Right? Smartphones can boost productivity, but if people allow them to, they can extend their workday to interfere with one's personal life. So now, what do we say to our reader? What do we tell them this essay is going to be about? The effects of smartphones on our workday or on our personal or and professional lives, however you want to say it. But again, make sure by the end of your introduction, your reader knows exactly what your paper is going to be about. It helps them set expectations, but it also helps you as a writer because you're telling yourself, hey, here's the idea that I need to stick to throughout this paper. All right. And I can't veer from this idea because then you violated the contract that you established with your thesis statement. So to recap, your introduction should have an attention grabber, some background, and then your thesis statement. All right. Make sure your thesis statement is the final statement of that paragraph because again, the logic is your intro builds up to your thesis statement. Okay. So in a sense, it goes from general to specific, as you build your thesis, or excuse me, as you build your intro. All right. Attention grabber, background or context. All right. Thesis statement. Okay. Thesis statement should not be a question, should not be an I believe, I think, in my opinion. A statement, it shouldn't be an announcement as well, like in this paper I will discuss or this paper will be about. Now, make a statement. Okay, make a statement. Smartphones can boost productivity, but if people allow them to, they can extend the workday to interfere with one's personal life. All right. And then if you go back a slide, not everyone realizes the effects that distraction can have on a student. Okay, to address the issue of overwhelmed students being compelled to handle multiple jobs at once, we must first understand the pressures that lead students to multitask. So use your thesis statement to articulate the main claim of your paper. Identify, whether you're going to be discussing causes, effects, or both. All right. What's again the causes and effects of what? So identify, what's going to be talked about, and then whether you're going to be discussing cause or effect. All right. But don't make an announcement. This paper will be about, I'll be discussing cause and effect, blah, 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 blah. All right. Now, once you've established your intro and you're content with your thesis statement, now it's time to start building the body of your essay. This is where you're going to deliver on the promise that you made in your thesis statement. Your thesis statement says, hey, here's what I'm talking about, audience people. All right. But the body of your essay has to deliver on that promise. All right. And when you're building your body paragraphs, now you want to think like two components. Topic sentence that states your main idea, that keeps you locked into that main idea, that keeps you focused on that one idea. And then you need relevant supporting details. All right. And when I say relevant supporting details, each one of those details or every, example that you use in that paragraph must have a connection to your topic sentence, right? Topic sentence says to the audience, hey, this is what this paragraph is going to be about, and only this. Okay. Remember, paragraph unity means that we discuss one idea per paragraph. All right. So if you're looking back at your outline and you're thinking of an effect you want to discuss that effect. All right. And then after you develop that, to the fullest potential, move on to your next effect. All right. And so on and so forth. But topic sentence, main idea, relevant supporting details, flesh out that main idea. All right. If you have those two components in the body of your essay, in the body, each of your body paragraphs, you'll be all right. All right. Or another way you can look at this is the pie method: point, information, explanation. The point is the topic sentence. Information, some kind of example, could be a quote, could be some data, could be an explanation. Um, and then the E is actually explanation. So if you do have a quote, follow it up with your own words. Always follow up quotes with your own words anyway. Never begin or end a body paragraph with a quote. But the pie method is point, information, explanation. Okay. And here's actually an example. All right. Now, okay, if we look at this body paragraph, right? Again, we're making sure we begin with a topic sentence. Smartphones can increase productivity at work, but this surge in output can come packaged with the feeling of being constantly on the clock. So if we were fleshing this essay out, we just told our reader one of the effects of having a smartphone is this feeling of being constantly on the clock. And I'm sure many of us can relate to this experience. I know personally, I get emails on my phone all the time and I have to police myself and you know just kind of pull it back to make sure my like the personal and the professional are bleeding into one another. All right. And I think as you know, just as people, we kind of owe ourselves that, that space to say, you know what, this is my time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever, or an hour, just some time where you can like wind down and get quiet. But that's beside the point. All right. Topic sentence: smartphones can increase productivity, but this surge in output can come packaged with the feeling of being constantly on the clock. All right. Many American employees begin the day by using their phones to check and respond to emails while still in bed, and close the day the same way. For most, the average workday has been extended by approximately 2 hours, which equates to an extra 10 hours a week, assuming one does not work weekends. Taking work home frequently increases stress, as many feel the need to comply with the endless demands of the workplace. The blending of professional and personal lives has become commonplace, and many are feeling the need to unplug, even if for a brief moment. In Looking for Balance in a 24/7 World, author and business owner Fuzia Burke comments, "We live in a culture of 24/7 work, and it has become normal to many of us. We have raised the expectation of availability to a point that is unhealthy." As Burke notes, feeling the need to always be available for work can lead to stressors that jeopardize mental and physical health. Now, let's dissect this paragraph a bit. All right. First, we began with our topic sentence. And just like in math, we can check our work. We can also do that in English by checking the body of our paragraph versus checking it against the topic sentence. All right. You're asking yourself, have I developed this topic sentence, and have I just stuck to this one idea in this paragraph? Okay. One idea per paragraph. Okay. So you can check each sentence in your paragraph, and again, make sure it has a connection to a clear connection, to your topic sentence. And I say clear because sometimes things are clear to us because we're the author, but they may not be so clear to our audience because everything makes sense to us in our own minds because we sometimes see connections that our audience doesn't see, but we can't expect them to see those connections, if you know what I'm saying. All right. So we have our topic sentence, we have some development. And then when we get down here, right, we got a quote. This is something new for us this semester. Okay. Something we haven't done yet. All right. Couple things about quoting. The first thing is, if we look at this paragraph, and we look at the highlighted section of it, that's a very small part of this paragraph. All right. And what I'm saying is, even when you're writing a full-on research paper, only about 10 to 15% of it should be words from outside sources. Okay. The majority of it should be your own words. And I always advise students, like, don't lose your own voice in your paper, meaning don't overquote, because then your sources are making your points for you instead of supporting points that you've already made. All right. So be mindful not to overquote. Okay. And like I just said, use quotes, outside sources, data, or what have you. Use that to support points that you're making. Don't let that make the point for you. All right. And then finally, excuse me, let me go back to our signal phrase. This, in Looking for Balance in a 24/7 World, author and business owner Fuzia Burke comments, that's what we call a signal phrase. And a signal phrase says to your reader, hey, I'm about to quote something. And if you can mention the author's credentials in your signal phrase, that's all the better, because it lets your reader know, like, hey, I'm using a credible source here. All right. And now, since my author is in my signal phrase, my citation is just a page number. All right. You can do this if you want. There's nothing wrong with it, but you really don't need it if the author's name is in your signal phrase. All right. But if there were no author here, then the citation would be the author's last name and page number. And as you can see here, there's no, like, I didn't use the number sign, not PG. I don't have a comma between Burke and page 7. All right. Don't have PG, like I just said. It's just the author's last name, space, and then the page number. All right. You don't have to get too fancy with it. Okay. And then always follow up your quotes with your own words. And, like I was saying before, don't start or end a body paragraph with a quote. Okay. Always start with the topic sentence and then always end with your own words. Okay. So build your body paragraphs in that way. And if we're looking at this from a pie perspective, here's our point. our topic sentence, right? Here's our information that develops the topic sentence, and then here's our explanation, right? To follow up, to our quote or to whatever piece of, material you bring in. Okay. So your body paragraphs don't have to look like this one, of course. And I know you guys are all writing about different subjects, but try to have some of these same components: topic sentence, relevant supporting details. And remember, do not stray away from the idea that you mentioned in your topic sentence. All right, because then you disrupted your paragraph unity. Okay. Now, when we get to the conclusion, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. Okay. No new ideas in your conclusion. All right. No new ideas in your conclusion. I think that's one of the main things we need to remember. Also, it's important to keep in mind with your conclusion, you want to give your reader this sense of closure, meaning like don't leave them wanting more. Okay. And then, finally think about what you want your reader to take away from your paper. Okay. What's the final idea that you want to reinforce? Okay. Most people aspire to be their best selves, personally as well as professionally. As jobs across nearly every industry become more competitive, the urge to push ourselves to do more becomes stronger. Our phones can keep people connected and enhance productivity, but it is important to be mindful of the cost of overworking, right? So we're coming back to that idea. All right. Extended workday, overworking, always being on the clock. That's been a consistent theme through this imaginary paper that we put together. Also, as people strive to do more, it's in their best interest to remember to manage technology instead of letting it manage them. I know it says us, but it should say them. All right. Now, all right, just as an additional, example of this, I want to look at this. And this is in the I know we're beyond week 7, but I'm still using, materials from the week 7 module. So I'm just going to download this a lot faster instead of looking, at it through the D2L window. All right. And the example I'm about to show you is from a real student. This is an actual student paper that I thought, was pretty successful. No student example, no paper is perfect. All right. So if you're nitpicking this thing, I'm sure you'll find some issues with it. But like I said, for me, this was a pretty successful paper. And I won't go over the whole thing because this example is on D2L, but again, I'll show you some of the things that worked, really well. All right. The first thing about this paper, let me actually exit dark mode. There we go. Okay, now you can see it in all of its glory. Just as an aside, again, make sure your formatting, is what it should be. Name, instructor name, class, and date to the left, last name, page number to the right. Also, you can see that, my spacing is pretty uniform throughout. No additional spaces are skipped between paragraphs, or I should say the student, no additional spaces are skipped between paragraphs. Everything is kind of uniformly double spaced. Okay, so let's look at some of these elements, right? And if we can recall, right, we need 3 elements for our introduction: attention grabber, context or background, and then we need our thesis statement. And I think this student pulled that off pretty well. It is often said that everyone cheats on their partner at some point in their life. So I thought that was a great attention grabber, because maybe the reader is thinking like everyone cheats on their partner at some point. So something that gets the reader thinking. Okay. However, when infidelity occurs, it can be hurtful to all parties involved. Okay. Now we're getting into some background, or we're providing context for what's to come. When a person cheats on their partner, they do not consider how their partner may feel when the truth about their infidelity comes out. All the cheater can think is, I'm doing something that's pleasuring me and it feels good right now. Unfortunately, temporary pleasures can lead to pain in the long run. The truth is, cheating is much more prevalent than people like to admit, and it is important to understand some of the reasons people go outside of their relationships. Okay, there's our context, right? And now here's our thesis statement. There are many causes for cheating, including emotional disconnection from their partner, viewing porn, revenge for past infidelity, boredom, lack of love, and communication problems. Now, the thesis statement, there's nothing inherently wrong with this. Okay. And just if I had one more conference with this student or one more chance to help them revise, my thoughts would be maybe their thesis statement is a bit too listy, but it works. And I think on the positive side of a thesis statement like this, it kind of lays out a plan of development for the essay, because it has the points that are going to be discussed in the order that they're going to be discussed. All right. So in some ways, a thesis statement of this nature can, help you stay organized. All right. So attention grabber, background, thesis statement. All right. As you're going through like your mental checklist, as you're putting your paper together, check those off. Right. Attention grabber, background, or context, and then thesis statement. That states the main idea. All right. And then we'll look at, one of these body paragraphs. Okay. What this paper really does well is the body paragraphs. Okay. The body paragraphs are very well organized, meaning like they begin with a topic sentence and then they stick to only that idea in that paragraph. Okay. The most common cause of infidelity is a feeling of emotional disconnection from a partner. Okay. Bam. We just told our reader that this paragraph is going to be about emotional disconnection. So that's the idea that this writer has to stick to. And that's the idea that me as an audience member, like that's what I'm expecting. All right. The person who has committed the infidelity may complain of feeling undervalued, unwanted, or ignored, which can lead them to cheat. As people build lives and become more comfortable with one another, there's a tendency for relationships to become stagnant, ultimately leading to emotional disconnection. So now this student is explaining how this emotional disconnection occurs, giving you more background or developing an idea. Okay. When you develop an idea, it's like you take this idea from your topic sentence. The most common cause of infidelity is a feeling of emotional disconnection from a partner. Now your audience is thinking like, okay, that's great that you told me that. Now show me how that's true. Okay. Show me how that's true. Many couples establish routines and can end up living completely separate lives, although they may share the same bed. When an emotional disconnection occurs, one person in the relationship may seek that connection elsewhere. Okay, now we're talking. Now we're building up. Okay. Emotional infidelity has proven to be more common than physical infidelity. All right. Now we're bringing in an outside source, and check out this signal phrase in her article. The most common way to cheat is not what you think. Kristen Kalaki cites research from the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy that points out, quote, about 45% of men and 35% of women have admitted to having an emotional affair. That's a lot more than the 20% of people who admit to having a physical affair. Okay. And then we have our citation, author's last name. Okay. Even though technically we wouldn't need it since it's in our signal phrase, again, there's nothing wrong with putting it there. All right. Now we have this piece of material from an outside source. So what do we have to do? We have to follow it up with our own words or our own explanation, right? So here's our point. Here's our information. And then here's our explanation. When there's a yearning for emotional support, it opens the door for a person to fulfill that need. The person in need of emotional support may not intentionally go looking for it outside the relationship, but if an opportunity for connection presents itself, they are likely to seize it. All right. So now if we're checking this student's work, let's look back at the topic sentence. Most common cause of infidelity is a feeling of emotional disconnection. And if we go back through this paragraph, we can see that every sentence speaks to that. Every sentence speaks to the idea that's presented in the topic sentence. And that's something we should hold ourselves to, no matter what we're writing about, in our papers. Okay. And then we'll look at one more body paragraph. All right. Additionally, now what works well about this paragraph is it starts off with a transition, right? And the transition helps this student go from one idea to the next. Additionally, okay, it's a small word, but it makes a big difference. Additionally, meaning like in addition to this idea I just discussed, okay, here's my new point. Additionally, the internet has become one main cause of infidelity. Now, okay, we just told, or this student just told the audience that the internet right, is another source of infidelity or another cause of infidelity. Okay. So now the student and you also, you have to stick to your topic sentence. All right. So don't talk about any of these other effects or causes, that you came up with in your brainstorm process until you fully fleshed out the idea that you noted in your topic sentence. It's very easy to get connected with people and continue privately talking with them for hours at a time at home, at work, or even in some public place. There are many websites where people can meet up, and this can lead to the beginning of a new relationship. Some may feel that if they are just chatting over the internet without physical contact, that means they aren't technically cheating. However, as Dr. Elizabeth Hartney, director of the Center for Health Leadership and Research at Royal Roads University, Canada, comments, all right, there's another signal phrase. That was a mouthful. Now it's possible to become involved with someone other than your spouse or partner by hooking up online. But while it may seem innocent enough, after all, you aren't in physical contact. Online cheating is really just that, cheating. Okay. And for this student, the end of the quote should actually come right here instead of, outside of your parentheses. All right. And then follow it up with your own words. A cyber affair can be with one or more online users, which is kept hidden from their partner. A person can feel betrayed and hurt by online infidelity as if a sexual encounter had taken place. Right. So now we've made 2 points, and we're almost at the end of page 2. All right. So for the body of your essay, okay, topic sentences, relevant supporting details, right, should factor into every body paragraph. Okay. And then the conclusion, I'm not going to read this person's conclusion, but you can look at it. But again, closure without introducing any new material. All right, to the best of your ability. And for your rough draft, do your best, get your ideas out. There's going to be an opportunity to revise. We can talk about your draft, once you get it submitted and you've seen the feedback, that's 100% fine. But I think with your rough draft, get your ideas out, and try to organize the best way you can. All right. But I think it all begins with your thesis statement. Okay. So make sure you put some time and some thought into your thesis statement and, let that guide the rest of your paper. Let that guide your body paragraphs. All right. So that's about it for today, folks. Again, if you have any questions, get at me by email. All right. And I will post another one of these, as we, get to the final draft. All right. Have a great day, folks.